We will focus today's webinar on that, on writing outlines. And I feel like this is probably something that most of you, if not all of you, have a good bit of experience with and know pretty well how to do. I think the big challenge here is um, often going to be based on how far along in your research you are. So if you've only, if you've got a type of project that requires a lot of data collection or surveys or interviews and things like that that haven't been done yet, then it might be kind of difficult to outline your article until that's done. So if that's the case, just reserve spots in the outline for where you think that information would go. The other thing it brings into consideration is what kind of research project you're doing. So if you are doing a mixed methods or a quantitative project, then you're probably going to use the MRAD structure or something similar to it for your article. Now, again, that MRAD structure is a base template. It's a sort of standard form, but even people who use that form sometimes use modified versions of it. And whether or not you're going to modify it will depend on a number of factors. It'll depend on your field. It'll depend on the requirements of the publication venue as well. So, for example, in some journals or in some fields too, people will have a literature review as a separate section on the same level as the methods or the results, right? So that's fine. If you have a literature review as a separate section, that's perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. Some people don't. Some people have the literature review blended into the introduction, and you can respond to literature throughout the whole article anyway. So, um, in certain fields like in economics, there is a section that they might call the robustness check, right? So they create these mathematical models for analyzing things. And then sometimes they need to have a whole section just devoted to showing that those mathematical models are robust mathematically. So, um, just depending on your field, you might be following a variation on the MRAD model, or you might not be following it at all. If you're doing a literary topic, you might just be doing what I would call sort of a free form article, in which case there aren't explicit um, sections where you separate your methodology and only talk about it there, or um, you basically have an organizing principle that is your central argument, and your methodology is apparent throughout, and your literature review happens throughout. So that's a kind of standard way that literary papers might be written. So if you're writing one of those types of papers, the outline is going to be more important than ever because it helps you organize the entire article. If you're writing an MRAD article or an article that follows a variation of the MRAD format, then the outline will be helpful in order to help you figure out how to organize each major section. So in your methodology section, your outline will help you organize the things that you're going to say in that section. In your results section, it will help you organize the things you'll say in that section. And in your discussion section, it will help you organize the things you say in that section, etc. Okay. But in either case, the outline is supposed to be a kind of skeleton of what your final product is going to be. So it can give an indication of what you'll say and where you'll say it and when. And depending on how deep you want to get with your outline, it can also include references to specific sources, specific pieces of evidence that you might use to or specific pieces of data, you can get pretty detailed with your outlines, and the more detailed you get, the better. And because, like I said a minute ago, my preferred way to think about an outline is this is not a, me imagining what I should do. It's me building the framework and the skeleton uh, of the piece of writing that you're about to create. The In this case, let's say, for example, the research article you're going to write. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't deviate from your outline uh, once you start drafting. Sometimes you might find that that's necessary, but it just means that look at it as a plan, as a blueprint. So not looking at it as a first draft, but as a blueprint for that first draft, right? And to use a construction analogy, I like to use construction analogies with writing because if you go through it step by step, you really do build a um, piece of writing. Okay, so when you build a house, before I would ask maybe what's the first step, right? And a lot of people would say, well, the first step is to put in the foundation, but that's actually the first step of actual construction. Before you lay the foundation, you make a blueprint, and the blueprint tells all the measurements, how big the foundation should be, how many meters wide by how many meters long, how deep should it be. It gives all the measurements for how the studs in the walls should be, what measurements they should be, the doorways, the rooms, every measurement, everything that goes into that house is going to be drawn pictorially in what we call a blueprint, or you could call it a plan. Some people call it a plan. They're not blueprints anymore. They used to be printed in a certain way on a certain type of paper, and the ink was always blue, and so that's why they're called blueprints. But with digital technologies we have now, they're not necessarily blueprints in the literal sense anymore. But you make that before you even start the foundation. So the outline is a sort of blueprint for what you're going to be building. Okay, so like I said, I feel like most of you should probably have a good bit of experience with this. Maybe you've assigned outlines to your students. Maybe you've done them yourselves. Maybe you've decided that you're more of an improvisational writer and outlining isn't very helpful to you. That's also a possibility. And if that's the case, that's fine. I think it's possible to write well without outlining, but I think it's also very helpful to have an outline. And the process of creating one can be very helpful. In the past, when I've written without making outlines, I had nonetheless thought through the structure of what I was going to produce in my mind. So that is outlining in a sense, even if you don't put it down in a document. So uh, that's also fine if that's how you like to do things. Now, there are different kinds of outlines, and one of them is uh, what we might call just sort of an alphanumeric outline, where you just put in phrases or you know words that indicate what you're going to put into your final article, and you don't go into a whole lot of detail, and you just use that type of outline to to create a picture of the structure that you want. That's the kind that I usually write, but there's another type that we might call the complete sentence outline, and that's a nice one to do as well. It challenges you to create complete sentences to describe each portion of something that goes in the outline. Now, you can mix the two, or you can uh, do a different type of format for the full sentence outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you this Microsoft Word document, and it's blank. Now, like I said, I feel like most, if not all of you, probably have a good bit of experience with outlining. Maybe you do it in your mind, like Dr. Sadia suggested, and like I sometimes do. Maybe you make a document. Maybe you've assigned outlines, maybe you haven't. So it seemed to me that maybe one of the more helpful things I could do is just show you something that took me a little bit of time to figure out. And again, this may be something you already know as well, but if not, it'll hopefully be helpful. And that's how to create the outline in the way I want it in Microsoft Word document. And I like to do an alphanumeric outline. Okay. And so with an alphanumeric outline, I will begin with, let's say, Roman numeral 1. And when I type that in, sometimes it'll automatically, yeah, there you go. It automatically formats essentially a your text as a hierarchy or as an outline. Okay. Now, when you make the next line, it creates the second item on that same level. So what you have to do is hit the tab button, and then it moves it over to the a subordinate level. Okay. Now here's where Microsoft Word starts to get annoying for me. And oh, can we zoom the screen? Yeah. All right. So let me repeat what I just showed you. Um, so go to view page width. Okay. So we have an empty document, and I type Roman numeral 1, hit the space bar, and it automatically starts formatting this text in the outline format. Okay. And then let's say this is going to be my introduction. So I would say introduction. Now, you might not put the word introduction for your introduction, or you might, it depends. Um, let's say this is an MRAD paper. So I'm going to have introduction, and then I hit the enter or return if you're using a Mac, and it goes back down to the second level of the outline. I mean, the second item in the outline on the same top level. Okay. In order to move over to the next level, there's two ways to do it. One is you go over here to home, and these two buttons up here will move you up or down a level inside your outline, right? So I click that one, it moves me to the first subordinate level. And I click this one, it moves me back there. Let's say with your methodology. All right, there I've got my whole first skeleton of my outline. Okay, so then when I hit return, well, let me slow down. I move the cursor back up here to introduction, hit enter, creates another item on that same level. So I can either go up to this button here, increase indent, or I can just hit the tab button on my keyboard and it moves it over to the next level down, subordinate to introduction. Now, once I'm here, this is where Microsoft Word gets annoying. For some reason, the default second level is using a lowercase English letter. And I would like to save that for levels that are even further down, right? So here, I would like to say common ground. Okay, now notice one thing. Now, I started with a noun, and so I'm going to continue here with a noun, right? Now, that's not necessary, but sometimes that is a helpful thing to do. Is like, for example, if you're going to have a verb as your top level, you might want to continue using verbs as you fill in your other things, and that creates what we call a parallelism, right? So if I'm just trying to say, here's where these different items are going to go, then I'm going to use nouns, and I'm going to stick to nouns within the outline, and I'm going to name the different items. We're going to talk about introductions later, but the first part of an introduction is the common ground, and that includes, okay, and here's where I find Microsoft to be rather annoying again. It's going down to this. I want it to have that. Okay. Not only that, but I would prefer it to be here to save space. Okay. But once you change the formatting, the next line is going to still follow it. So hook, text. Okay. Now I'm going to get back up to the next level up. So I'm going to click this button. So that might be where my problem statement goes. See, it's going to make me drag these all over here like this. So I'm going to look at styles. It's not in a style right now. So all right. So there's my introduction, right? If I were writing an outline of an article that I was actually working on, I wouldn't put the term common ground here. I would actually put some phrases that define that common ground. We'll talk about common ground later. Right. I would put some ideas for a hook to get people interested, and I would put some information about the context I was going to provide. Here, I would put a summary, a phrase that indicated my problem statement. Or you can use, if you're doing blending this with the full sentence or complete sentence outline, you could also write a complete sentence for these, right? You could write a complete sentence for your principal claim. Okay. So, but this is a sort of alphanumeric outline, and it goes it down into different levels like this. So in your methodology, we would have, you know, example. I'm just going to leave these all in the same place just because, again, it's annoying. You can go through and change the formatting, or you can just let it do what it automatically does. Example, example, example. But this I would definitely always change. So we've gotten from Roman numerals to capital letters to Arabic numerals. I'm going to go down to lowercase Roman numerals. Okay. So your alphanumeric outline will break down like this. The key thing to remember for formatting it is if you want to control, I like to go from uppercase Roman numerals to uppercase English letters to Arabic numerals to lowercase Roman numerals to lowercase English letters. And if you go down even further, I would do something like this so that, you've got Arabic numerals with a period, Arabic numerals with a bracket. Okay. So the key things to remember for this type of formatting is once you begin Roman numeral period space, Microsoft Word will automatically put it in the outline format. And it's this button up here that lets you pick different numbering formats. Okay. And if you if it stops keeping track and making new elements fit in the right number, you can set the numbering value and change it. And then using these two buttons to move things up or down within the structure of the outline. So let's say this one, I wanted to move it back up on the same level as A and B here. I'll just click this button. Or if I say, no, that's actually subordinate to B, I'll be click this button. Okay. Once you define what number or type of letter you want on a given level, it should continue to do that throughout the outline. Okay. So that's an alphanumeric outline. You can use phrases, single words, or whatever you want to fill in these bits, these different items. You can also use complete sentences for that. However, a complete sentence outline or a full sentence outline or whatever you would like to call it may actually look um, be formatted differently. For example, you could say something like, um, here is, I'm just going to make up a sentence. Okay. And then what I would do is, so this should be over here anyways. Yeah. We put that there. To make a full indent, you see that this thing I'm dragging up here, if you just drag this top triangle, it indents the first line of a paragraph. If you drag the bottom triangle, and indents all lines except the first line of a paragraph. And if you grab that rectangle, it indents all lines of that same amount. Just like with the other outline, you can use these, okay, these same buttons. Okay, so you can see what a sentence level outline, I mean, a complete sentence outline would look like. I'm just making all this text up like as examples right now off the top of my head. But the main point here is to show you that there's different ways that you can format your outlines. In either case, Microsoft Word can be your friend, but it can be a little bit tricky because I don't know why, but they've programmed it by default to follow a hierarchy of letters and numbers in the alphanumeric type that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I like to modify it. But again, you can modify it just with that button here. And in both cases, these two buttons can move things from one level to the next. Um, do you need a references list with your outline? No, not necessarily. But if you are going to do a full sentence outline, or even if you're going to do outlines like this, um, you might still uh, refer to like specific set texts, or I was going to say sections, but I mean specific like sources or articles. So you could say context, yeah, knowledge, and then here you could have right. And then you could have something like, okay, so you can go down into these numbers of levels. So again, those are just examples I'm making up on the spot, but you can do that on either type of outline that you do. Okay. How about we will now pause for any questions or comments about outlines.
Dr. Ivan, why didn't we make the same kind of outline for research proposal? That could have been a lot easier for us then.
I've used to have the outline assignment before the research proposal assignment, but I've changed it simply because in the past, a lot of people have already begun working on their research project, and the research proposal is usually something that, for example, let's say you did a research proposal and it got turned down, like happened to me when I was working on my doctoral dissertation. Most people would write one research proposal, and then if it got accepted, they would just move forward, or they would modify it, or if it got rejected, they would write a different one. But I couldn't make up my mind what topic to write on, so I actually wrote two separate research proposals, and I just said, if one of them gets turned down, I'm definitely going to work on the other one. And if both of them get accepted, then I'll have to think about which one to do. So, anyways, one of them got turned down, so I never actually did that research project. So the point of the story is that research proposals usually come at a phase when before you would do the research, because if the proposal is not accepted, you either modify it or you don't do the research project. And yes, outlining the research proposal would be very helpful. But when I've taught this class in the past, most people already had a research project that was beyond the stage of doing the research proposal. So the research proposal as an assignment got moved up to the beginning just so that it could be a chance to practice working within that form. And the outline for the article is assigned now because that's usually the stage where people are ready to go when um, when they take the course. And it just differs every time. But this is the sixth time of me doing the course, and most of the time, uh, the research proposal was more of a just an exercise in form because most people already had a project that had advanced beyond that before the course even started. So I just move it up to the beginning and do that first, and so people can familiarize themselves with it. But you're right; it might have been, if we were starting from scratch, we might write an outline for our research proposal before writing the research proposal. But having written the proposal, and then if the proposal gets accepted, we may still write another outline for the research article or the research paper or the book or whatever project um, it was that got approved. So uh, you can do the outline at any point in time whenever you're planning to create a text. So, but yes, that's a good question, and I do think that yes, I can see the wisdom of doing the research proposal after the outline assignment, and that's actually how I used to do it. I actually changed it. So, but again, this goes back to the writing process. The writing process is recursive, what we call pre-writing, and is to me, as I said before when we were talking about the writing process, to me that's a misleading term, and I only use that term because that's what everyone else uses. But it's not pre-writing. Writing this outline here for an article, when a research proposal has already been written, it's going to be pulling a lot out of the research proposal. So it outlines can be done in the middle of the writing project, and not only before you begin to write, or not only at the beginning. Um, so there is a place where they can go. Throughout the writing process. And you might find yourself doing multiple outlines for different reasons. If you're writing a book, you might do an outline for each chapter. If you're writing a very long research article, you might do separate outlines for each section. You might do one master outline. Um, but anyways, that's a good question.
Do we
Yeah, I think
keep changing the outlines as we make changes to the methodologies, to the techniques, to the analysis?
I wouldn't. You can if you want to. I wouldn't think you should have to. The outline is there to help you. And so if once it's served its purpose, then you don't have to change it just because the text changed. At the end of the day, you're gonna produce a text, and people aren't gonna see all of your outlines, all of your drafts, and all of your changes. They're just gonna see the final text. It's like when you watch a film, you don't see every take where the actors had to redo their lines because somebody messed up, or maybe the film was too long and the editors had to figure out how to make it 20 minutes shorter. So they cut a lot of good material, but you don't see all of that. You just see the final product that they produce. And um, a lot of documents get created, a lot of texts get created, a lot of things get written and then get omitted from the final text, but they're still important to the final text because creating those outlines, writing those drafts, eliminating passages from a draft and adding new passages to the draft, all of that contributes to your thinking and your creative process in a way that makes the final process what it is. I mean, final product what it is, regardless of whether people see all of those things. So once the outline has served its purpose, you don't need to keep changing it or updating it to match your article, because it's just there to help you plan your article or your final text. We got another question here. Is the structure of the research proposal flexible? Yes. Um, that it is flexible. It's going to be based on the uh, it's going to be based on the research project itself. You know, if you're doing, again, if you're in social sciences and you're doing surveys and interviews and structured interviews and things like that, you're going to need to describe those methodologies. You're going to need to have text that ensures that you're not, um, you know, violating any ethical principles, right? If you are asking people in surveys or interviews about information that might be private information, you have to have in your proposal how you're going to ensure that the respondents remain anonymous. How are you going to ensure that the data you collect is kept safe? What are you going to do with that data when the research project is over? Those are things you have to answer if you're doing research that involves surveys or interviews or people in some way. So, like, we get a lot at my university, we get a lot of students in our nursing program, and they have to do a senior thesis, and they want to do surveys of people and asking about medical things. Well, in our country, medical records are private, and people are allowed to talk about them if they choose to, in being interviewed or surveyed, if they agree to participate in research. But if you're going to do that kind of research, you need to produce in your research proposal the types of guarantees that show that you're going to follow all the proper procedures to maintain confidentiality or privacy for your research, for your survey respondents. If you're doing research on a literary text, you don't have to do that, right? So you don't need that portion of the research proposal. So then it wouldn't make sense to put uh, anything like that in there, right? So um, it's very flexible based on the topic of your research. It's also flexible based on, again, the requirements of wherever you're going to submit the document. So if you're submitting a research proposal to your university, there may be policies they have about how to format your research proposal. In that case, that template that I shared with you might not be the something you follow exactly. You may be given a template by your university. Um, if you're applying for funding and there's let's say, some sort of entity like the Higher Education Commission, or um, some entity outside of your university that might provide funding for certain types of research, they might have requirements that you might need to follow. Okay, so the template I gave you is just something that hopefully is useful for you, but that you may need to deviate from it, or you may need to alter it based on your research topic, based on the requirements of whoever is you're submitting your research proposal to. Okay, Dr. Abdul has said, with the option of outline, there is also a tab of draft as well. Please say something about that as well, please. I don't understand the question. Tab of draft. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm looking at Microsoft Word. I don't see any tab for drafts. Could you tell me where to find it?
On my tab, the very first is the print layout, then the full screen web layout, then is the outline, and then is the draw.
So we're probably looking at view.
Yes, means view
Okay.
the very first. Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
print layout, full screen
Right.
view.
Okay. Yes, I understand your question now. Okay. So this is the view tab in Microsoft Word, which I use a lot. Or the view, whatever this is, menu. Okay. So home is kind of the default where you've got your main controls. So view shows you what kind of view you want to be shown. Okay. If you go to read mode, it gets rid of all of the controls for how you format everything, and you're just basically able to read, and you can go page by page right? It doesn't allow for editing. So you go back to view, and I go to edit. So now that's how you get out of the read mode. Now, print layout, as you can see, shows you exactly what the page is going to look like when you print it. Okay. That's the one I like to use. Also, this little button here either will hide or show formatting marks. Okay. So in print, so when you go back to view and you're in print layout, this is truly what it's going to look like. The formatting marks wouldn't be visible. I like to leave those on when I'm editing or writing, just because I like to see the difference, for example, between a paragraph break. See, here's a paragraph break. If I hit enter, it creates a new paragraph with the same formatting as the previous one. Right? It's a paragraph break. Now, if I hit shift and enter, it creates a line break. This is not considered a new paragraph. It's considered a new line within that paragraph, right? These are your tabs between, these arrows are your tabs between the outline, heading, numbers, and the text, right? So these little dots here are empty spaces between words. That helps me when I'm working in Microsoft Word. I like to see that, okay? Web layout is what this would look like if you were to convert it to HTML and put it into the text of a web page. Yes, I'm using Microsoft 365. I do have it for Mac and PC. And it's a little bit different, but most of these things are the same in earlier versions. It's just that they might be in a different place or a little bit different, but most of these features are still available going back to different versions. You just might have to look a little bit, look for them, right? So that's the web layout. The outline layout is looks like this. I never use this because I don't feel like the Microsoft Word app is good at interpreting the way I subordinate different aspects of my text or my outline. So as you can see, I had these when you in the other view, in the normal view, these sentences were indented to show that they're subordinate to one another. And then when I go to the outline view, they're not. Okay. So I don't think it properly understands the way I'm structuring my texts in order to get this accurate. I can just do it better myself. So I don't use that one. Maybe there's some other way to use it that I'm not aware of. Okay. In the draft tab, what you'll see here is that it's not showing you where the page breaks are. It's just showing you the text. Okay. That's the main difference between this one and the print layout. So if I were to go into you see now I've got two pages here. It shows me exactly where the text is going to be on one page versus the next page. And I can see where the pages are separated. And then if I go over here to layout, so I've got normal margins, I can change those margins here and make this space smaller and that space smaller and this space smaller or bigger. And you can do all that. If you need to do that type of stuff, definitely leave it in the page print layout view. In the draft view, it takes away a lot of that. You can see this dotted line is where the page break's going to be, but it's not showing you the margins on the top, the sides, or the bottom. It's just showing you the text, and it's showing you where the next page would begin, and that's it. So if you find that less distracting, you can use that. I almost exclusively use the print layout view, but those options are there in other views. Are there any other questions or comments regarding outlines?
Well, I am going to use this idea with my students before they make a proposal because it will make things easier for them.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that you found it something that could be useful. Definitely, I think before writing a proposal, it could be very helpful to get them to write an outline. And it could be helpful, again, like I said earlier, to also have them write an outline before writing an essay or a research paper. It's a good way for planning and it puts a structure in place that you can then move over into the proposal or move over into whatever else it is you're writing. But yes, I agree. It definitely could be useful for the proposal. The task that for you now is to move past the proposal and begin working on your research article. And so your outlines for for all of you should be outlines for your actual research article. Um, and yes, outline is a skeleton that saves time and paves the path towards building your project. Exactly, I agree completely with Tariq. And I agree with Sadia that it can be used to develop into a table of contents. Now, since we're on the table of contents, I don't remember if I showed you, but in Microsoft Word, you can make a table of contents and you can choose the formats that you want. Okay. And then I'm going to hit shift. I'm going to hit control and enter, and that creates automatically a page break. CTRL enter. That's in PC. In Mac, I think it's CMD return. Okay. So there's nothing to put in it, but to update the table automatically, what you do is you would say, let's just forget about these outlines for a minute and say, we've got our text here and we go home, we go over to styles, we go to heading 1. Now this is not, here's another thing annoying about Microsoft Word. Its default styles don't make any sense to me. Why this is going to be blue and 20 in Aptos font. But if in APA, we would just go to Arial 11 point centered and bold. And when we go over here to heading 1, right click, update heading to one to match selection. See, because it was selected there. And now heading 1, we still need to modify it again to make the text black. Okay, so we made the text. So in APA format, you actually put your title here. You don't use the word introduction. Okay. Then we're going to go over here to styles, heading 1. Styles, heading 1. Styles, heading 1. Then we're going to go back up here to the table of contents, click update table, and voila. It updates the table. If you want sub chapters or subsections, you're going to have to go to styles and go to heading 2. Then to make it APA format, you're going to have to modify it, make the text black, use the correct font, Arial, bold. Okay. Go back up here. And you'll see it formats your table automatically for you, but it's corresponding the table of contents with these styles. You have to go in and change these styles if you want them to be in APA format. So we'll have heading 3 again. We're gonna have to modify that. I think I have a template for APA papers. The template I gave you for the research proposal is it's already a template that uses where the styles have been changed. Okay. So beyond that, if you go down to a 4th level, I wouldn't put it in the table of contents unless somebody requires you to, because the 4th level in APA has the heading in the same line in the same paragraph as the text that follows it. And these is the normal text subsection. Begins here, paragraphs. Section. Okay, so that's how you can do it to make your table of contents continually. After doing that, you can just go in there and update it constantly, and it'll just keep track of where everything is, all the page numbers and everything. I'm sure many of you may have already known how to do that, but just for those who weren't aware of it, there you go. The other thing is, if you're going to write a lot of papers in the APA format, you can create a template. If you do this, you go over here to save as Microsoft Word template. Okay. I'm not going to do that here because it's not thorough enough. But if you save it as a template, then what happens is it becomes available to you for any new documents. So you go over here and click new. All right. And you'll see in my templates, I have created the APA 7th edition advanced student paper template, which I give to my advanced writing students. Okay. And a student paper template. So, and these already have all the styles are ready. So you just, when you do heading 1, you don't have to modify it. You click heading 1. When you want to do a heading 2, you don't have to modify it. You don't have to pick the font, change the font color or anything. All the fonts, everything, paragraphs, indentations, spacing, all of that, title page, it's all in here. As you can see, right? So I made this template for my students, and I can make one for all of you if you would like, but I can give you this template as well. I'm just letting you know that the APA rules have a different they have a different set of sort of the formatting rules for APA are different for student papers than they are for professional papers. So you wouldn't, if I give you the student template, it's for undergraduates. And you can put that into your classes, you can give it to your students. But I can make a professional template as well for you and show you just because it's going to be a little bit different. And I can give you a professional template. And then, like I said, whenever you create a new document, go to new, and the recently used templates will be up here at the top. So blank document, or these are two recent ones I've used. The templates that Microsoft Office provides are going to be down here, and I've almost never used those. And then any personal templates that you've created are here. And here's the research proposal template that I made for all of you. Okay, you can see that this is more or less the only real difference between this and the one I'm going to make for you for research articles is just that, you know, these items like executive summary and all this, research objectives, plan and schedule, budget, anticipated outcomes and things, those are elements of a proposal that you wouldn't find in in articles. But if you look up here at this, I've already made all the, see, affiliation. Well, guess where that goes? Right here. So when you creating a new document, there you've got your institutional affiliation, author. There's your author style. And normal is your basic paragraph styles, right? So here, this is in the normal style. References, if you go down to when you're ready to write your references, you can go down here, see how the hanging indentation has been done for you, right? That's because you click that and it formats it for you. Running header, which you don't have in undergraduate papers, but you would need. So all of these style elements are already there for the research proposal, and I will make an alternate one for research articles for you. I will share the undergraduate ones as well. Sorry, I think when I was showing you the undergraduate one, it didn't actually show you that document, and it showed you the previous one I was using. So I'm going to open the undergraduate one and share that with you briefly. Okay, so in an undergraduate one, there's no running header. The student puts their name and department, and then the name of the class they're writing the paper for, and then their professor's name and the date. So my students, I teach an advanced writing class, so I just put that in there for them. But they can use this template in their other classes. They would have to change that. Has the table of contents in here. And the thing about this template is it shows them how to make use of it, right? How to save it. And I want y'all to be aware of the fact too. Oh, wait, I didn't change it. This is an incomplete one. Yeah, that's why I had two. Okay. Oh, so I'll give you the complete one, but it gives you the instructions on actually what to do with it. So when I give you a template, it's going to be a .dot X file. A normal Microsoft Word document will be .doc or .docx. That will be the suffix for the file name. .docx is going to be a template. And what you do with a template is you open it, then you click Save As, make sure you keep .docx, and then you have to go to wherever your templates are, and mine are in a folder called MS Word Templates, and then you save the template into that folder. Okay. If you don't know where Microsoft Word saves your Word templates, And you go down here to options. Can you see the options menu? No? Yes? All right, well, I'm not hearing any answers, so assume you can see it. You go over here to options.
It's
Okay.
visible.
Okay, good, because it's not, doesn't have that green line around it showing me that it's being shared. So you go down to in general, you go to, maybe it's not in general. Oh yeah, you go to advanced. Okay, you go to, not general, you go to advanced, and in advanced, there's another subsection called general, and that's where you click file locations. Okay, if you click file locations, another window pops up and it says, it shows you all your default file locations. Your default location for documents is here. And for user templates, it gives you the folder path to get to where your user templates are. If you don't like where it's storing your user templates and you want to move it someplace that's easier to navigate to when you save templates, just click modify and you navigate to the folder where you would like to have Microsoft Word save your templates. And then anytime you create a template, you set all of your styles and you save it as .dotx Word template, and it goes into your templates folder. And then when you click new, it appears under your personal templates, and you can select that every time you create a new document that you want to base on that template. Okay, so we've gone a bit beyond just outlines today, but since we were on the subject of how to format things, I guess it was worth it to go down that tangent. Um, are there any other questions or comments before we conclude?
But today we have learned some new things about Microsoft Word, some technical things, just like saving the template. We
Yeah,
didn't know about this before.
it took me a long time to figure it out. Trust me, I spent so much time in graduate school formatting and reformatting things and that were already written, but it's just, going through and cleaning up the formatting of something and just, have to do it from ground up for every single thing. And yeah, I finally, I don't remember how I discovered it, but I did. And I was like, wow, Microsoft Word has a lot of things in it that are, um, that are very useful, and you don't always know they're there until you experiment with them. But definitely for formatting, I mean, I feel like it's the best word processor that there is, mainly because of the way, in terms of formatting. I've tried open source ones, Google Documents, Open Office, um, the Macintosh proprietary one. Just they've just got the best word processor. That doesn't mean I love Microsoft or anything, but Microsoft Word is definitely a good piece of software, and they've been developing it for a long time, and it can do a lot more than most people actually use it for. So, yeah, I should probably make some. Uh, yes, Sadia mentions that some journals vary in their formatting requirements. They call it a style sheet. And you may submit an article to one journal and they say use the APA format, and another journal may say use Chicago Manual of Style. That's a pain because you have to go through and redo all your references and everything for that. But that's why you can create templates. So if you have a template for, like, if there's one journal that you like to submit work to on a regular basis, take their style sheet, use it to create a Microsoft Word template, and then um, put that in your templates. And then you, every time you want to write something or submit something for that journal, paste the text into that template, and then identify the styles, define the styles for each heading and each paragraph or whatever. And then it'll still be some extra work if you're not using that format anywhere else, but it'll speed it up. Tabs. I'm not sure who this is, but yes. So regarding the peer review assessment, if you submitted your draft into the workshop and then completed the peer review of 2 peers, then you will have completed the assignment, and then I will go and read your draft and give you feedback as well. If you did not do that, then I won't give you any feedback because you didn't complete the assignment. Like I said at the beginning, I understand that 1 or 2 people had some difficulties with the Moodle site, and because of that, they did the draft but weren't able to submit it. I think there was at least 2, maybe 3 people in that boat. And if you were one of those people and you found some peers to review outside of the workshop, then write me individually, let me know, show me the draft that you made, and show me the comments you made on your uh, peers drafts, and then I will mark that you completed the assignment and give you feedback. Shumila asks, in which journal should we publish our articles? That is up to you, really. And well, partly up to you. It's up to you where you submit your article, and then it's going to be up to you in collaboration with the editors of that journal about whether that's a suitable place to publish it. Journals usually follow a certain field. We're going to talk about this later, but if you're in applied linguistics, there are journals that publish papers in applied linguistics. Some journals are kind of regionally focused, so they'll publish things from a variety of fields that are all about a region. So there might be a journal about South Asia, and you may find that that's a suitable place for yours. There are journals they all have a different organizing principle that defines what types of papers that they take, and you need to find one that's just suitable for whatever research you've done. Do we have ready-made templates saved on the basis of the style sheets of different journals? I don't know. I think I would suggest that you make them. I don't know of any. There's so many thousands of journals. I don't know of any database where they would have templates that matched up with those. Some journals might provide you with a template. I've seen journals that do. I did when I edited Pushkin Review. I provided a template for our authors because I kept getting people that wouldn't follow the style sheet, and it created more work for me as an editor to try and go back and forth with them and get them to follow the style sheet. And so I created a template and said, just use this. But most journals don't provide a template. They just provide the guidelines. That's a style sheet, and that you can make your own template based on that. Should we make an outline for the entire article or just there are a few sections? Should we use IMRAD or go from abstract to references? That's Ahmad Ali. I would say entire article, outline your entire article, But if you're using MRED, that's going to depend on your subject matter, your field, and the requirements of your target venue of publication. So if you're going to use it, outline what goes in each section as part of the entire outline. If you're not going to use it, then definitely outline just the whole thing. Got another. Oh, okay. Yes, Dr. Sadia says we check the scope of the journal and see if your article fits there. Exactly. That's exactly what you should do. But yeah, there's no specific journal that we're going to all try to publish in, because we're going to be working on different topics. Some people are here in this class are working on literary topics, and some are working on linguistics topics. There may be others as well. I'll know more about that after I read your research.